What's good, y'all? Hey, breaking news, guys. 38 wins, 29 knockouts. Terence Crawford says that this fight with 28 wins, 22 knockouts, undefeated fight is going to happen down the line. Now, look, looking from some of ERROL SPENCE's pictures, this looks like he's starting to bulk up a little bit. Looks like he's starting to get a little strong. Looks like he's trying to add some more muscle for that physical strength. I mean, maybe it really depends. It depends, would you consider it bulking up because he came from a smaller weight class? Probably, yeah. I don't think he's a small guy. I don't even think at 135 or 140. I think he was big for both of those divisions, or at least like a good size for both of them. I don't think he was physically small though. I'm just looking at like his physicality in the Shawn Porter fight, the Kell Brook fight. I don't think so. I don't think so at all. Now, when it comes to this fight though, if it does go into play, how would the fight even really look? How would it look? I've looked at other videos, people saying that we've seen Terence Crawford gas, we've seen Terence Crawford do this and that, and we haven't seen ERROL Spence do any of these things. And I'm just like, where has this happened though? When has Terence Crawford gassed in a fight? When did he? He might have gotten dropped against Mean Machine, but hey, despite that, look, it wasn't counted as a knockdown, but it looked for sure like a knockdown. It looked like Mean Machine got him right there. Got him pretty dang good. But even still, there's like a load of things that people are saying. They're saying Crawford's gonna gas out in this fight and he's gonna get overpowered. He can't take Spence's jab. In my opinion, for this fight and this matchup, look, I don't think he's going to gas out at all. I think he's going to be in perfect shape. I doubt he's going to gas out. He's going to get hit good with some body shots and probably stick his tongue out as if it didn't hurt him when it clearly did. But, that's just kind of what he does sometimes, I guess. He did a lot of taunting in the Shawn Porter fight instead of winning those rounds, too. That's why he was struggling in that fight. Now, looking back, like on retrospect, that was my initial impression when, like, watching that fight. Because Terence Crawford was more or less taunting and acting like Shawn Porter wasn't doing anything to him in the fight, when in reality, Shawn Porter was winning some of those earlier rounds. Then, when Bo Mack told him that he was down, he looked super confused. He was like, I'm down? Then, he had to close the show because he didn't realize that all of that taunting was not going to help him win. It looked like out of the two, he looked more capable and he looked like he was in a more confident mind space into winning the fight. And Shawn Porter was just more game, but that doesn't help you win rounds necessarily unless it's effective, and it wasn't effective. And as for ERROL Spence, people always bring up the ERROL Spence jab. ERROL Spence is a very good jab. He breaks everyone down. But how effective do you really think this is going to be? I think Terence Crawford is going to have enough movement and boxing capability to avoid being broken down like a Yordenis Ugas. I think Yordenis Ugas was a person who stood forward to ERROL Spence. He was not a fighter who moved. Terence Crawford is no little boy. He's not a small fighter who has durability problems. If he did have durability problems, he would have lost already. He would have gotten dropped and knocked out already, to be honest. If he really had durability problems, he would have gotten dropped multiple times by Mean Machine, in my opinion, because he was being caught multiple times. One of my favorite things about that fight too is him taking the fight to Mean Machine. Now, I've heard somewhere that Terence Crawford's preparing to take the fight to ERROL Spence. If that's true, I want to see that. I really want to see that, because that's gonna really show ERROL Spence's durability, and that's going to really show Crawford's durability too. Like, if Terence Crawford could take the fight to ERROL Spence and win, then hey, kudos to him. I'm not sure about that. ERROL Spence is essentially the best in these lower weight divisions at breaking people down and making them succumb to his pressure, no matter how good you are. A fighter who really could have had a chance against ERROL Spence Jr., was all the way back in 2018, actually, 1 year off, against Carlos Ocampo. Ocampo was looking good for the first round. Unfortunately, he got hit with a body shot. That's how devastating Errol Spence can be as a fighter. And I'm still looking at Carlos Ocampo. I think he's going to do well at 154 pounds. As long as he does not get hit with body shots, he's fine. I'm sure Terence Crawford's going to be able to take some of Spence's punches. I'm sure he's not going to want to take his punches multiple times, though. He's not going to want to take his body shots a plethora of times. Otherwise, he might take a knee. And I just all around feel like, too, right? I kind of just feel like this fight is going to sort of go like one thing and one thing only. Spence is going to always be ahead on points, I feel. No matter if Terence Crawford is the better fighter or not, I think Errol Spence has too much just ring generalship and too much ring presence. I think he's going to initiate action far more than a Terence Crawford, or at least a lot more effectively than a Terence Crawford, because if he didn't, maybe this fight would be more closer. But I just think at this point, from how I look at the fight, I think if Terence Crawford is going to win this fight, he may be low on points. He could win a decision over time, but if he were to get a stoppage, which is something I do predict, he's going to struggle at winning these rounds because of Errol Spence's activity. And all-around jab, too. You know, I understand that Kell Brook is a lot faster than an Errol Spence. I think Kell Brook is faster than Terence Crawford, too. But Terence Crawford was struggling with Kell Brook's initial setup, his initial jab, his initial timing. And these factors are very important. These are very important factors into determining who's going to win a fight. Errol Spence has magnificent timing. Most of Crawford's opponents at higher levels have good timing. Now, Errol Spence is a very fundamental fighter. He's very fundamentally sound. I think his ring presence and his, I would call it, nickname it, ring charisma, or ring generalship for that matter, is going to put him in a place where he's winning these rounds. You know, I don't think that Errol Spence is going to try to necessarily box him from a distance, but I think he's going to try to initiate pressure. If he boxes him from a distance and manages to win, I'll be surprised. I think he could do what Mikey Garcia did, but Terence Crawford's a lot better than Mikey Garcia and has a lot more footwork than Mikey Garcia. Mikey Garcia is a great fighter, great defense, but Terence Crawford has a lot more tools in his belt, such as reach, a longer reach, even a longer reach than Errol Spence. Maybe not arm length, but a longer reach all around. And just a better boxing IQ in general. So if that fight were to happen, I could see Errol Spence winning the rounds while Terence Crawford stops him, or Terence Crawford winning a very close decision. I just don't see it. I don't see anything being wide at all. People predicted Crawford versus Porter to be a wide win, but you know, as you saw, it was not a wide victory. Now, Terence Crawford, if you look back and if you rewatch the fight after watching it for the first time, compared to watching it for the first time and being absolutely startled at how well Sean Porter was competing against Terence Crawford, you would realize that Terence Crawford was slowly peppering him for the finish in those later rounds. Terence Crawford's, there are certain punch selections of Terence Crawford that'll give Errol Spence problems, and there are certain punch selections of Errol Spence that'll give Crawford problems. So I don't think this is going to be a one-sided fight. I think this is going to be a very competitive one. I just don't see it as being a one-sided fight either. I think Errol Spence's physicality is going to play a big factor in this one too, and his relentless pressure if he decides to initiate it. I think if he tries to box, if Errol Spence tries to box with a Terence Crawford, it's going to be a Terence Crawford victory by a decision. If Terence Crawford is pressured by Errol Spence, I think that'll be a more difficult fight for Crawford, because I don't think he can outbox Crawford. I think Crawford is way too intelligent of a fighter, you know? So yeah, like, compared to Crawford's other opponents, Errol Spence has a set of attributes that are quite different. I understand the Sean Porter victory was great. It was a good win. It was a very good win. The scorecards were pretty close and pretty dang close. The Kell Brook scorecards were close, but this is how I initially predicted both of those fights. For Kell Brook, I predicted a decision win initially for Terrence. Wait, no. I did predict a decision win, actually. I did, weirdly enough. I predicted him, if it were to go to the distance, I predicted him to win a 116, 112 each. Every single scorecard would have been a 116, 112 in my opinion. I don't think that Kell Brook had the tools to give him that much of a competitive fight close on the scorecards, especially at this point. And I think Terence Crawford had enough attributes to win. And as for Shawn Porter, if that fight went to a decision, I would have thought it would have been an either majority decision or a unanimous decision, 115, 115, 113, or 116, 112. Now, I understand that Kell Brook beat Shawn Porter, but their styles are different. Their styles are very different. Like a Porter style, I would expect to give a closer scorecard than a Kell Brook, even though Kell Brook won. And there's a little difference too, because Shawn Porter and Errol Spence are very different fighters, but they also have certain things alike, such as pressure. Shawn Porter has that more like swarmer pressure, where he's like sort of like a Mike Tyson, while Errol Spence is more of a relentless type of pressure fighter who breaks you down over time, like an Antonio Margarito. And for an Antonio Margarito, hey, this fight is going to be a lot closer. Now, I think if Crawford actually fought Antonio Margarito, he'd box his brains out, because Antonio Margarito basically kind of had pressure and taped gloves with cement, basically. And Errol Spence actually has very good boxing skills and very good timing and very good fundamentals, along with his pressure and power and athletic ability. Errol Spence's speed is going to be another factor of this fight that's going to fly over people's heads because of how fast Errol Spence is. Spence is a lot faster than people think. And people are going to find that out against Terence Crawford. And Terence Crawford is going to struggle on those scorecards, even if he does stop him. So my prediction is still Terence Crawford by stoppage, while Errol Spence is up on points. I believe that this fight will happen. I hope so, definitely, if Crawford and them are still talking about it. And if Crawford's still going to take the fight to him, I cannot wait to see it. All right, thank you guys for watching. I'm not even going to, that's someone else's thing. Stay tuned for the next video. All right, bye guys. Hit the notification bell too.